Ladies and gentlemen, before the 2025 Mexico City Grand Prix, Max Verstappen was 40 points behind the championship leader. And with 5 races to go, all he had to do was close up to the championship leader by 8 points on average per race, and then he will win the World Championship. Now, after the Mexico City Grand Prix, he was not able to close up to the championship leader by 8 points. He only did it by 4 points. And on the other side, McLaren's Lando Norris had a phenomenal weekend. Completely dominant performance, got pole position by 3/10, had a good launch off the line, didn't put a foot wrong. He was 30 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc in second by the time he got to his first pit stop. And at checkered flag, I think he was also half a minute ahead of Charles Leclerc. So great dominant performance by Lando Norris, while Max Verstappen didn't close up to the championship leader in the expected amount of points, or like according to the math, he was less than average. And because of this, because of all of how the 2025 Mexico City Grand Prix panned out, some people, especially delusional Lando Norris fans, Zach Brown and these type of people, they're saying that, hey, you know what? Max's run, Max's charge, it looked realistic for a minute. Max's charge to the 5th world title right now is over. Because Lando Norris is consistent, McLaren have gotten back to their earlier pace. Now they are consistently performing, not consistently performing. I mean, it's only been one race where Lando Norris performed in a dominant fashion, like the initial stages of the season. But still, this is giving enough reasons for people to count Max Verstappen and Red Bull out of the World Drivers' Championship, because they think that with this performance of Norris, which is going to clearly stay, consistent for the remaining races, he will be the world champion. And I disagree with that. The reason is, there are plenty of reasons. The first reason is, when Red Bull has a bad weekend, when Max Verstappen is slow, when Max Verstappen is not comfortable in the RB21, he still puts the car on the podium position. We saw that in 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. We saw that again in 2025 Mexico City Grand Prix. He was slipping and sliding. He was not comfortable in the car. The grip level was abysmal. He was not in a car that he could push to his liking throughout the entire weekend, and he still was challenging for P2. He could have gotten P2, but fuck the FIA, fuck that, poorly timed VSC. They didn't release the VSC when Liam Lawson was about to kill 2 marshals, but they released, they had the VSC when Verstappen was just about to attack Leclerc for P2. Anyway, I'm not mad about that. The point that I'm saying is, when Verstappen has a slow weekend, when Red Bull don't deliver Verstappen the car that he can comfortably push throughout the entire race, he still puts the car on the podium position. That's a critical thing you need to understand. When the McLaren drivers are not comfortable, they're P5, P6, or maybe even worse. They not only lose significantly double-digit points to Max Verstappen when the McLaren drivers are slow, they also lose points to, Mercedes and Ferrari, and as we have seen in the past, midfield teams as well. If you remember the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Lando lost points to the Racing Bull of Liam Lawson. If you remember the most recent race, which is the 2025 Mexico City Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri lost points to Oliver Bearman in a Haas. Now, some people will say, well, Oscar was not comfortable in the car. That's not an excuse. That's the fastest car on the racetrack. That car won the Mexico City Grand Prix by 30 seconds. Piastri has no excuse, being stuck like on the gearbox of Oliver Bearman in a Haas. Great job by Oliver Bearman. The Haas looked quick. He had pace throughout the weekend. Phenomenal job by the American team. Great performance. But at the same time, if you're driving the fastest car on the grid who has that much of a pace potential, you're fucking it up. And that's the critical thing. That's the 2 important thing you need to remember. The third thing is, there are a lot of tracks coming in which the McLaren drivers will struggle to extract the maximum performance where Verstappen wouldn't. The next race is Brazil. I haven't checked the weather forecast, but if it is raining, if it is a wet race, then the McLaren drivers are fucked. They're fucked. it is very possible that they will lose 25 points to Max Verstappen. If they crash, if they put it in the barriers, if they, it's by aquaplaning, they lose it, get beached somewhere, it will be muddy if it's wet. I haven't checked the weather forecast. Again, I'm just saying that can definitely happen. Then you go to Qatar, which is a high-speed track. The final sector, the final few corners are completely just high speed. That's Max Verstappen's advantage. He's gonna go and have a good result over there. Then you have to consider that there are 2 sprint races remaining. In the United States Grand Prix sprint race, Verstappen closed up to the McLarens by 8 points because both of the McLarens tangled with each other and crashed out. So there are plenty of reasons in which, like tracks and racing conditions that are gonna come in the next 4 Grand Prix time, which will give the advantage to Max Verstappen, which will make it difficult for the McLaren drivers to extract the maximum performance of the fastest car in 2025 grid. That's the third reason. The fourth reason is what Andrea Stella said after the 2025 Mexico City Grand Prix. So after the Grand Prix, Andrea Stella said that Mexico is not a place to judge the strengths and the weakness and the pure pace of a racing car track, of a race car, not a racing car track. What the fuck? A race car. Andrea Stella explained that in Mexico, it doesn't matter how the car performance is, it doesn't matter how fast a car is in qualifying or in race, because you make a lot of adjustments on the car for cooling, and because of that adjustments to optimize cooling, it fucks the aerodynamics of the car. Now, as we know, this is something that we know, Max Verstappen's Red Bull is kind of like an unstable car, kind of like an unpredictable car. Recently, they have made it more predictable, more reliable, and that's why Max is performing well. But for the majority of the season, that car was unpredictable. It has very sensitive aerodynamics. They are pushing the design that Adrian Newey has done 2 years ago so far ahead that it's now a joke. So you have to understand that about the RB21 that Verstappen drives. Now they go to Mexico, they make a bunch of changes in the cooling louvres, the slits on the bodywork and whatever to optimize cooling. Obviously, that's going to destabilize the car's aerodynamics. Obviously, it's going to happen. And 1 weekend is not enough time to find the perfect balance in case of the front wing angle and the rear wing angle and all these other type of things to stabilize the car with respect to the new cooling louvres that has been added on the car. So Andrea Stella was perfectly right in this case. There are certain cases in which Andrea is a little bit delusional, but this time he was absolutely bang on. His technical knowledge is through the roof, and he's right. You cannot judge a car's pure performance in Mexico racetrack because of the aerodynamic situation. You make a lot of adjustments to optimize cooling, and that fucks the aero. Sensitive cars like the RB21, which were quite unbalanced and difficult to predict anyway, are going to take a big of a hit. And if you consider that impact, and Verstappen was still fighting for P2, 4 races, 4 Grand Prix weekends, 2 sprint races included, 36 points, Verstappen can do it. He genuinely can do it. And right now, it looks like, and also Lauren Mekies said something. Lauren Mekies, after the Mexico City Grand Prix, he said that our focus is to just make the car better and better and give Verstappen a car that he can comfortably push. So right now they're going to go back to Milton Keynes, and their goal is to, analyze that data. I think this is exactly what they're going to find. They will find that they have a fast car, but due to the aerodynamic constraints and the situation of Mexico, they were a little bit slower. But obviously, McLaren have found some clear pace, and they are now back to their original rhythm. Not Oscar Piastri yet. I guess we will see what Oscar can do in the 2025 Brazilian Grand Prix in the next race. But we will see. I think Brazil is a special track. I think that's where you will find, the real pace of all of these cars. And I genuinely believe 36 points is not that big of a gap for Max Verstappen if he takes double-digit points out of the McLaren driver's lead Grand Prix after Grand Prix as he has been doing. Yes, in the Mexico City Grand Prix, he only took out 4 points. But if you judge how Verstappen's pace was, and at one point he was like P7 or P8, and then he, like blitzed through the field, made overtaking moves left, right, and center. Eventually, was challenging Charles Leclerc. That's very impressive. So I genuinely believe Verstappen can still win the 2025 Drivers' Championship. Excited to see how that pans out. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.